Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Elden Ring and we're doing another late game build guide. This one being the Absolute Beast Strength build. So like all of these level 200 guides that I'm doing, they will obviously be at level 200 and I'm showing them on an account that is on a New Game Plus 2. So most of these builds are suited for New Game Plus, you know, multiple ones in because they're still very powerful, not just in the early game. And also keep that in mind that we are playing on a later game mode. So if you do this on an earlier game mode, you will obviously deal quite a bit more damage using these weapons and this setup in this way. So just keep that in mind when you're watching. But yeah, so this is a strength build, and it's the best one I've been able to come up with performance-wise, just for raw output of incredible amounts of damage. And there's some variation, and I'll tell you about that as we go. But let's just dive on in and start off with the skills that I recommend for this build. So you can see we're at level 200, as always, for these builds, and I have them distributed in sort of a quality build way, just because we kind of have to with the weapons we're using. Otherwise, you get a little bit too fat rolly because it just slows you way down. So obviously our main thing is going to be strength, and we have that up to 80. So we're getting as much, before the law of diminishing returns goes in with soft caps, as much potential power out of strength as we can. So we have that at 80. Then we're going to focus on endurance, dexterity, and vigor. So we've got the endurance to 61, which is nice because that allows us to actually wear somewhat heavier armor and dual wield giant crusher hammers without fat rolling. So it keeps us in the medium load range. And our dexterity being nice and high because it's just going to help in combat in the same way. So a lot of these weapons, not all of them that I recommend for this build, but quite a few of them scale also with dexterity. So it's going to help on that damage quite a bit. And then of course we want our vigor to be nice and high because we want those hit points. Mind does not need to be very high. I have it up to 20 just so I can cast multiple times without having to drink my tears to fill her back up, but you really don't need to put many points into it at all. And same thing can be said for intelligence and faith and the arcane. So none of those have any sort of specific requirements. You need to be able to use a seal, and so you need to have at least 10 faith because I think the lowest seal requires 10 faith. Not a lot of intelligence, faith, or arcane needed for this build at all. You can see I just have some in there just for specific choices I made. So you can alter things that I did, and then you won't need any of those requirements. And you can also use a different talisman to save some points. So if you wanted to use the Sora Seal so you could save 20 points, all for strength or all for something else instead of using them on your vigor and endurance and everything, that's an option as well. But this is generally how I build for this strength build. This is how I distribute my points. Then for equipment, you can see we got it all right here. We do have a seal. Like I said, you need some sort of a seal. It's just a cast flame grant any strength, so it doesn't need to be anything intense. The finger seal can just be picked up from the husk ladies at Round Table Hold, so it's probably the easiest and fastest one in the game to get. Any of them will work, but this one is just the one I decided to put with this build. Then I have the Giant Crusher with the Royal Knight's Resolved Ashes of War as my main hand weapon, and a Giant Crusher with the Golden Vow for my offhand weapon. And now obviously you can only get one of these per playthrough unless you get someone to drop you one, so that's why, like I said, it's great for New Game Plus. If you don't want to use the Giant Crushers, the two other best weapons that I find to use for this one, because you can use Ashes of War with them and they have ridiculous damage, are going to be either the Prelate's Inferno Crozers, so you can use a pair of those and just use the same Ashes of War that I have here, or you can use just the regular Greatswords. And now the Greatswords are an excellent option because they don't weigh as much, so you don't maybe need to put as much into endurance, and also you can get them really early in the game over in Caelid from the back of a troll cart. Again, just one per playthrough, and you could mix and match however you want, but I like to match them together. So like I said, I use the Giant Crushers for my main weapons in this one, and then I also have a finger seal. Then for the armor that I'm using, I have the Black Wolf Mask, because it looks awesome. The Raptor's Black Feathers, because again, it looks very cool and also gives us a boost to jumping attacks, and I like to jump and do big, powerful power stancing strikes, you know, jump attacks with this build, so obviously that boost right there is going to be great. Then I just have Blade's Gauntlets and Greaves as the other ones because they offer pretty decent protection, they don't weigh a ton, and also they look really cool. So yeah, the combo is mostly a Blade thing, but instead of using Blade's body, we use the Raptor's Black Feathers just because it gives us that jump attack boost. So that's the armor that we're using. For our talisman, you could kind of go with whatever you want. I only two of these on here are essential, and it's these last two. Those are essential for the build, but these first two are kind of up to you. I did Erdtree's Favor +2 because it raises our maximum HP, stamina, and equipment load, so it's going to help us a bit with all of those things. And then the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, I like using this one because it gives us a big boost to physical damage negation, so we'll take quite a bit less damage when we get hit. And on these slower moving strength builds, at least I get hit more often, so that's why I like having this one on there. Then the Clawed Talisman is going to enhance our jump attacks, and that does stack with the Raptor Feathers, so you can use both of these and get a nice, big, really powerful jump attack. And then the Ritual Sword Talisman, which raises our attack power when HP is at maximum. So this is going to be our initial hit when we first go into the battle, and to our first hit, it'll help us hit just a maximum amount of damage for it. So those are the talismans I like to pair with this build. For your tiers, again, any high level thing, Dung Eater, Black Knife Tiche, anything that you really like using, but Mimic Tier Ashes, especially leveled all the way up, is probably going to be your best bet, because now you just have 2 absolute beasts running around. So I like to pair the Mimic Tiers with it. For our Flask of Wondrous Physick, you're going to want to do your Stone Barb Crack tier, which temporarily makes Stance Breaker easier, which is good using a build like this, because it's going to help us puncture through those blocks and stances even more. And the Opaline Bubble tier, which significantly negates damage received. So this is going to be another one that's going to help us take a lot less damage. So that's the way that I like to set up the equipment for this build. Alright, now the process to use this build is a couple steps. So the first thing you're going to want to, well, I guess I should show you, just to make sure, you have your Royal Knights Resolved in your right hand, and your Golden Vow in your left hand, because the process I have designed for this requires that. So you're going to want to just make sure you've got everything ready, so you get your Physick down below, and your Flame Grant Me Strength up above, and then you're going to want to two-hand your left weapon, and cast your weapon art for that. Then you're going to want to go back and cast your other weapon art, which is going to be great. And then you cast your incantation, so your Flame Grant Me Strength, and then you take your Physick, and now you're ready to fight. So again, the best way to do this is going to be a jumping attack. But you can see that we deal a pretty impressive amount of damage. Now I had a real bad showing there, because I just screwed up my initial attack because I pressed the wrong button. Pretty dang powerful as far as strength build goes, and it's definitely the best one I've come up with so far. So you can see we've got a stone golem here. So again, I'll just show you that process because I think I screwed it up a little bit the first time. You're going to want to two-hand your left weapon and cast your weapon art. That's going to give you an attack power boost. Then you're going to want to cast your incantation, your Flame Grant Me Strength. Then you're going to want to cast your second weapon art. Then you take your Physick, and now you're ready to attack. See, I knew I screwed it up a little bit. So you get a nice jumping attack. We did. I didn't think it would kill it in one shot. Alright, but so it can be pretty effective. Without all the gimmicks, you can also make this a pretty effective one. So without having to cast everything, obviously it's still going to deal a tremendous amount of damage because we've got a really high strength level and obviously really powerful weapons. Alright, once more for good measure, we're going to do this. We'll cast this one. We'll do this. We'll do this. And we'll do this. And now we are ready to traverse the mists. So let's see if we can take out the Leonine Misbegotten. Turns out we can. Who would have thought? Our humble little strength build was enough to take out the Leonine Misbegotten. So like I said, it's a pretty dang powerful build as far as bosses are concerned. I don't love strength builds against a lot of the lower level mob type enemies just because they're so slow moving and you can get knocked out of it. But for boss fights like this, they can be pretty great. I mean, obviously they're still going to be really powerful against these mob type enemies. But once you start getting mobbed around, like I said, I just personally don't think they move fast enough to be super effectual in a lot of, you know, regular combat. But it's a real fun build to use, and if you like using strength, then this is just a great way to go. This build that I've got here is the most powerful one I've ever come up with, and I tested quite a few different combinations. And like I said, if you don't want to use the Giant's Crushers, or maybe you just don't have 2 of them, or whatever the case may be, then the regular Greatswords or the Prelate's Infernal Croziers also work just amazingly well with this build. But that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you find this build useful if you decide to give her a try. But we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.